When a massive earthquake releases a deadly gas from beneath the ground, a French couple must find a way to transport their daughter, who suffers from a unique medical condition, to safety. Before the landing announcement wakes Mathieu, he dreams of his daughter Sarah running through a field. In the airport parking lot, the man calls his daughter and informs her that he'll be home in 65 minutes. Then, he loads his luggage on his motorcycle and drives home. In his apartment, Mathieu hears Sarah's voice from the two-way radio, asking if he's heading over to her mother's apartment across the street, and he says he'll be there in a minute. Outside the building, the man runs into Mr. Belkacem, another tenant, and he helps the older man carry his oxygen tank. When he gets to the apartment, his wife Anna greets him with a kiss by the door, then tells him to head to their daughter's room, because she's currently in the middle of an online class. In the bedroom, Sarah is inside a hermetically sealed capsule due to a mysterious autoimmune condition called the Stimberger syndrome. The child has to remain inside the vessel at all times because she's allergic to every possible allergen. Mathieu places his gift in the disinfection chamber before his daughter can safely receive it. He says that she looks pretty, but teases that she made herself look nice for her friend Noé. The girl opens the box of essences and seems confused that they're from Canada, since her father said he was in Marseille. He waves off her question and points out the micro SD card hidden at the bottom of the box. She takes the card, places it in her VR glasses, and marvels at the beautiful visage of the Rocky Mountains. After Anna's class, she asks her husband how his job interview went. However, Mathieu admits that he wasn't in Marseille, but in Canada. He explains that the doctors there are making terrific progress towards a cure for their daughter's illness, but they have to move to the country to participate in the trials. Anna argues that Sarah's doctor in France would have told them about any significant breakthroughs, but he says the doctor knows nothing. She reminds him that their daughter is home and that she finally has a life, but Mathieu doesn't consider living inside a bubble a worthwhile existence. Meanwhile, Sarah speaks to fellow Stimberger syndrome cases Charlotte and Noé via video call. They want her to thank her father, on their behalf, for always keeping them entertained with the VR footage of the beautiful places they might never see. Before he leaves, Mathieu asks Anna to seriously consider his suggestion of moving to Canada. He says that despite what all the doctors said, he still believes that their daughter will leave her bubble one day, and he'll finally get to hug her. His wife, on the other hand, wants to be realistic about the situation, because they've been searching for a cure for 12 years, to no avail. Later, the TV shows a news report of a 6.7 magnitude earthquake in Sweden and Denmark. While Mathieu is in the shower, the building shakes from a strong tremor. He immediately gets dressed and calls Sarah on the radio, who says her capsule's backup battery kicked in when the power went out. So, the father says he'll head over to the other apartment as soon as possible. Outside, the man notices people running in one direction, so he investigates. Suddenly, he sees a thick gas emerging from the ground, and the people nearby perishing from the fumes. Then, in the distance, a hazy mist spills onto the streets, prompting all the civilians to run in the opposite direction. He rushes back into the apartment and tells Anna they have to head to the top floor because of the gas. He assures her that their daughter is going to be alright inside her capsule, and Sarah agrees. On the top floor, their neighbors Lucien and Colette let them in. Anna radios her daughter, who says that even though the entire room is filled with gas, her capsule's air filter is keeping her safe. They head to the balcony where they see the hazy gas settling just below Lucien and Colette's apartment. The older woman worries about their son Remy, but her husband assures that he'll be fine. Mathieu and Anna wonder what the mysterious substance could be, because it's much too big to be the result of an explosion. Later, Anna radios her daughter to ask how many bars her capsule's battery has left, and she says 4. Relieved, the mother says it'll last another 10 hours, and assures the girl that the power will return soon. Mathieu climbs up to the roof from the balcony and sees that the mist has covered the entirety of Paris. When he climbs down to the balcony, Lucien shares that his son Remy lives down the street in a ground-level apartment. However, he's optimistic that his son found a safe place to hide. Inside, Anna informs her husband that their daughter's capsule still has 4 bars, but they both realize that if the power doesn't return before the battery runs out, Sarah won't survive the night. Minutes later, Lucien takes out his old radio, which they can use to listen to the news. Mathieu heads out of the apartment and sees the gas just below the top floor landing. He runs his hand over the smoke, smells his hand, and realizes he didn't suffer any ill effects. When he returns to the apartment, Anna informs him that Lucien's radio doesn't work. He says they need to figure out a way to reach Sarah, but his wife says the only way is if they can hold their breath for 4 minutes, since changing the battery already takes a minute to complete. Then Mathieu remembers that Mr. Belkacem has an oxygen tank, so he takes a flashlight and hammer from Lucien and descends using the downspout to reach Mr. Belkacem's window. Before he plunges into the gas, he takes a deep breath, then smashes the window with the hammer. Inside the apartment, he finds the old man's lifeless body and spots the oxygen tank by a table. He places the mask on his face and secures the sides with tape. Then he returns to the window to inform Anna that he found the tank and that he'll head over to Sarah. Suddenly, Mathieu hears a noise from the bedroom. When he investigates, he sees a shadow moving under the door. When he opens it, a puppy runs out of the room. However, the animal's mother lays lifeless on the floor. Soon, he goes to Sarah's room to change the battery on her capsule and to leave her food and other supplies. He tells his daughter to be brave because their ordeal might take a little longer than expected. When he's about to head back to the top floor, he changes his mind and decides to go out into the street. There, he finds multiple bodies littered everywhere. Later, he runs into a group of soldiers leading survivors toward a pickup point where a convoy will supposedly take them to Montmartre, an elevated part of Paris. One soldier says no one has information regarding the gas, but assures it wasn't from an attack because it came from underground. He hands Mathieu a gas mask and encourages him to join the group on their journey. However, the father says he needs to return to his family and asks for another gas mask for his ill daughter. Finally, he returns to the apartment, to his worried wife's relief. He explains that he went outside where he met soldiers taking survivors to Montmartre. Lucien asks if the soldiers plan on rescuing them, but Mathieu doubts they'll bother, especially since they're on foot. He asks Anna if she'd like to see their daughter, but the wife thinks it's smarter to conserve the air for important situations. That night, the man notes the gas level by the stairs and discovers that it rises several inches every few hours. After the older couple goes to sleep, Mathieu informs Anna about the rising mist, and she says they can't stay in the apartment much longer. Later, when she's unable to sleep, the mother uses a gas mask to visit Sarah and change the battery. Meanwhile, her husband has the same dream of Sarah running through the field. When he wakes up the next morning, Mathieu sees his wife tinkering with the radio, and she says that it's finally working. They listen to the Interior Ministry's broadcast stating that France is on red alert. They advise all citizens to seal the doors in their buildings. Suddenly, they hear loud noises coming from afar, so Mathieu and Anna climb onto the roof. They use binoculars to view Montmartre and discover that the supposed safe haven has devolved into chaos. Later, Anna suggests they take Sarah to Charlotte's home in Morvan Hills, where the two girls can share a capsule. To transport their daughter, they plan on taking a suit specially made for those with Stimberger syndrome from a laboratory in central Paris. Before they head out, they stop by Sarah's room to inform her of the plan. She asks them to check on Noé, who lives just around the corner. At first, the parents explain that they can't risk using up air by checking on the boy, but when the girl asks what they'd do if she was the one missing, they reconsider their request. Outside, Anna sees the lifeless bodies for the first time, so Mathieu says to avert her gaze. They're about to enter Noé's apartment building, but an aggressive dog's growling catches their attention. Suddenly, the animal chases after them and the pair run away in fear. When they reach a part of the road filled with stranded cars, they get separated, and Mathieu ends up falling into the Seine River. Meanwhile, the dog continues pursuing the woman, who manages to evade the creature by running inside a bus. The dog's leash snags on a piece of luggage, allowing Anna to smash a window with a hammer to escape. Then she searches for her husband on the river's surface, but when she doesn't spot him, decides to continue the journey to the lab alone. Elsewhere, the man climbs out of the water using a ladder. Then he takes a dead man's coat to replace his drenched one. While looking around, he spots a lifeless man wearing a hazmat suit inside a crashed vehicle. Outside the lab, Anna sees dozens of dead pigeons on the street. Suddenly, Mathieu arrives, and the reunited couple assures each other that they'll make it through the ordeal for their daughter's sake. As they search through the lab, they pass by a burning room. Then, they find the hard plastic case containing the special suit and take it with them. When they're about to leave, the doors open in a fiery blast, throwing the pair against the wall and burning part of the man's torso. Anna uses a fire extinguisher to put the flames out, but when the man notices he's unable to breathe properly, he realizes that the explosion damaged his oxygen tube. He holds his breath and removes the mask, then Anna shares her air with her husband. As they climb the stairs to higher ground, they continue alternating the air supply between them. Finally, they enter an office the mist hasn't reached, where Anna tends to the man's burns. She grabs a first aid kit from the bathroom, then quickly wraps his torso in bandages. When they prepare to leave, Mathieu sees that their gas tank only has enough air for one person, so he tells his wife to return to the apartment alone. Anna refuses, but the man says he'll try to get there by traversing the rooftops. He believes that once Sarah gets the suit, she'll be able to locate a pharmacy with gas tanks and possibly come back for him. The woman sobs and says she can't do it without him, but he assures that she and their daughter are the strongest women he knows. Before she leaves, they share a passionate kiss. While she runs through the city, dragging the suitcase, Mathieu slowly makes his way across the rooftops. Just as Anna reaches the entrance to the apartment building, she runs out of oxygen. So she takes a deep breath, removes the mask, and pulls the suitcase up to the top floor landing where she finally inhales. Unfortunately, when she checks the suitcase, she sees that the explosion in the lab damaged both the case and the suit. Meanwhile, Mathieu happens upon a collection of supplies on a roof, with a rope hanging right above it. So he uses the rope to climb up to a higher landing. There, he sees a trail of blood and follows it to a lifeless body in the corner of a parking lot. He enters through a metal roll-up door and finds a mask and gas tank, which he takes. Suddenly, a police officer arrives, carrying the bags of supplies he saw on the roof earlier. The cop orders Mathieu to put the mask down, so he asks if he'll end up like the dead guy outside if he refuses to cooperate. He slyly opens the tank, and when he sees the cop move to grab the gun from his holster, pulls the mask over his face and tackles the cop onto the lower level below. When the police officer scrambles for his gun, Mathieu holds onto him tightly until the man finally succumbs to the deadly gas. In the apartment, Anna receives a notification on her phone alerting her that Sarah's capsule battery is at 5%. She informs the older couple that she has to change the battery, so Lucien offers to do it himself. However, Colette says he won't last 20 seconds without a mask, given his numerous pre-existing illnesses. Anna thanks him for the offer, but thinks he should stay in the apartment with his wife. Before she leaves, Sarah calls her on the radio to ask how a person knows if they're in love. The woman assumes her child is talking about Noé, so she tells Sarah that she deserves to fall in love, just like everyone else. After thanking the older couple for letting them into their home, she heads out of the apartment, takes a deep breath, then runs towards Sarah's room. In the bedroom, Sarah's battery runs out. Thankfully, her mother arrives to change it just in time. Anna gives her daughter one last sad smile before running back towards the top floor. Moments later, Mathieu finally reaches the apartment building. He hears his daughter, who tells him that Anna changed her battery without a mask on. So the man rushes to the stairs, where he sees his wife's lifeless body. From her capsule, Sarah hears her father's cries of anguish. The distraught man returns to Lucien's apartment, where he informs his daughter through the radio that her mother passed away. Hours later, the building shakes from another tremor, and Mathieu sees the mist rising even faster. He informs the older man that he plans on retrieving the hazmat suit he saw earlier and modify it for Sarah to use. He says he'll find gas masks for the elderly couple as well. However, Lucien says he need not bother since they've decided that they'll stay in the apartment. When Mathieu asks why, Lucien explains that he doesn't want to outlive his son and that they've had a good life. Before he heads out of the building, Mathieu tells his daughter what he plans to do. The girl begs him not to go, explaining that he'll die because of her, just like her mother did. The father emphasizes that it was her mother's decision to risk her life for the daughter, and says that Anna knew what she was doing. He promises that he'll come back, so they can leave together. Meanwhile, Colette asks Lucien if they had a good life together, and the man assures her that he was the happiest of men when he was living with her. As they lay in bed, the couple patiently awaits the rolling mist as it creeps through the window. Concurrently, Mathieu returns to the crashed vehicle and retrieves the hazmat suit. On his way back, he uses a scooter he finds on the side of the road. In the haze, he fails to see a boy crossing the street. When he swerves to avoid hitting the person, he crashes the scooter and ends up hitting his head on a car, causing him to lose consciousness. In the capsule, Sarah radios her father but receives no response. Suddenly, someone opens her bedroom door and she wonders if her father's returned. Minutes later, Mathieu regains consciousness, grabs the radio, and tries calling his daughter. Despite no response, he continues trudging to the apartment with the suit. Suddenly, he sees his daughter running toward him. The man gives her a tight hug and wonders how she can breathe without a mask. She says Noé, the same boy he almost hit with a scooter earlier, came to see Sarah to inform her that the gas can't harm them. The delighted man removes his mask, finally kisses his daughter's cheek before placing the mask back over his face. He happily proclaims that his belief that he'll hug his daughter one day came true. In the same recurring dream, Mathieu sees his daughter running through the field, but this time, other children join her. When he wakes up, he finds himself inside the capsule. His and Sarah's roles now reversed.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.